political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Tinubu wins big at Election Tribunal as Obi declares no retreat, no surrender. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments whose names are clear and are about the issues discussed. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade Tutoju, all the way from Borno State. Good to see you again, BKO.
Good to see you. I'm happy to be here again today to take your questions as I've done in the last 1.5 years.
Absolutely. And this time around, it's an interesting conversation. It's going to be, as it's always been, because I would like to start by asking you about your impression of the judgments pronounced by the BEPC. I lost count of the phrase, petitioners failed to prove that, getting these petitions, being struck out for lack of merit. What's your reaction to these judgments to start with?
Honestly, I'm not surprised. And you will recall that on this program and on Journalist Hangout, I had said repeatedly that some of the grounds upon which the petitioners pinned their hopes were unmeritorious and will amount to a waste of time, the final analysis. Look at the matter of 25% of Abuja being mandatory. I recall saying that Abuja people do not have two heads. So there's no reason for anyone to think that you must score 25% in Abuja to be elected president. It is borderline insanity for people to think that one part of Nigeria, one very small part of Nigeria is more important than other parts of the country to be accorded a status that was not accorded much bigger states, much richer states, and much prominent states. So I knew all along that it was a waste of time. My disappointment was the fact that lawyers, big time lawyers that we had always respected all our lives, yielded to probably ethnic sentiments and decided to be pushing that narrative that you had to win, score 25% in Abuja to be elected president. Let's ask ourselves, does it mean that if I scored more than 25% or even more than 50% in 36 states of our country, and I failed to score 25% in Abuja for one reason or another, maybe Abuja Abuja aboriginals or the traditional, I would say, owners of Abuja fielded somebody very strong, an indigene, very, very strong. The way Peter Obi was very strong in the Southeast in the last election, and other people failed to score, other candidates failed to score up to 25%, because it's possible. The way Peter Obi dominated the Southeast elections, for example, the presidential election in the Southeast, how are you going to score up to 25%? So if, for example, we have somebody so strong who is an original indigene of the FCT and commanded so much support, and he stopped others by his preeminence, by his political strength and sagacity from scoring up to 25%. Does it mean that for that reason, and it could be that could be the only state that he won, does it mean that the person who scored 25% and above in 36 states is not electable because he could not score 25% in Abuja? We told them that this was a very, very ridiculous suggestion and an attempt to manipulate the constitution. But all that has failed. Just as I said on Journalist Hangout last Sunday, I said I was confident that at the end of the day, the court will make a categorical statement that will put an end to the needless argument over the status of Abuja, because Abuja does not have any special status. The people who live in Abuja, yes, they may be richer than a good number of us because that is where the decisions are made. But they don't have two heads. And because they don't have two heads, Abuja will never be special. Abuja will never be more important in the grand scheme of things than other parts of our country. How do you compare Abuja to Kano, for example? Kano Tadabo, that they refer to as Tumbingiwa, meaning the belly of the elephant. Metaphorically speaking, the belly of the elephant. That's how Kano is described because of his stature. So, or you compare Kano to Lagos, that is already ranked among the first 5 economies on the continent. So I just do not see the need for that argument. And of course, we also saw that clearly Shettima, the Vice President Shettima, had been the Vice President Shettima had already been cleared by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled on the 28th of May that Shettima was validly elected. So if Shettima was adjudged to have been validly nominated, on the 28th of May by the Supreme Court, nobody should expect that a court lower in status, than the Supreme Court will give a contrary ruling. So again, that ruling didn't come to me as a surprise. I also wasn't surprised that the court affirmed that Tinubu was not convicted in the US for drug trafficking, because there's no evidence that he was convicted for drug trafficking, and neither was he indicted or arraigned. If Tinubu was convicted, if he was guilty of drug peddling and the rest, I know America very well. America, a country that went all the way to Panama to arrest a sitting president because the sitting president was involved in drug trafficking in the US, was involved in destroying lives by being involved in drug trade. Manuel Noriega was president of Panama in 1989 when America sent some of his newest fighter jets and radar jamming aircraft to go and go to that extent. If America could go to that extent to arrest a president for being involved in drugs, no one will expect that Tinubu will go to their country, be involved in the drug trade, and he will still have the latitude to be going up and down. He goes to the US when he likes. Would they have bribed them or what? How would the Americans have left him all these years? People who are prepared to jail even their own former president. We can see what Trump is going through. So all along, I expected that the court will affirm that indeed he was not indicted, neither was he arraigned, and for that reason, you cannot stop the election that he won on account of such perceived offenses, including the matter of forfeiture of some money. So all that they needed to do, all that the petitioners needed to do was show evidence that indeed they won this election. But if you ask Atiku or Peter Obi, they never showed that their votes were stolen, and these are the number of votes stolen. If they had done that, the court would have had to look at the invalid votes and the valid votes and declare somebody a winner. In some of the decisions that we have seen in the last few days, in Kogi, for example, you can see that a particular candidate defeated, the APC candidate in court. She went to the extent of saying, oh, these were the votes that I scored. These were the votes that should have come to me. There was no time. And the same thing happened in Benue, where former Governor Suswam defeated an APC senator. There was no time that Atiku provided an alternative result sheet showing that he scored more votes than Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There was no time that Peter Obi provided an alternative result sheet showing that his votes were stolen and showing the quantum of votes stolen, which, if returned to him, will give him an unassailable lead over Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There was no such time. So, and if you are making generic statements to say, okay, votes were stolen in this state, votes were stolen, and you do not show the particular polling units where those votes were stolen, so that the stolen votes can be taken away and the valid votes will prevail, what do you expect the judges to do? What did you expect the judges to do? So they made the job very difficult for those judges. You have to show proof that indeed there was overvoting. You have to show that APC benefited tremendously from the overvoting. You can't go to court and say, there were irregularities, all kinds of irregularities here and there. I think that our constitution already envisages that we will not have a perfect election. And that is why it talks about substantial compliance. As far as our constitution is concerned, once substantial compliance with the Electoral Act is established, then the election is good to go. The election stands. But if substantial compliance is not established, and substantial compliance is not complete compliance, so the framers of the constitution must have said that we can't have a situation in which everything will be perfect about the election. I have said repeatedly, I remember was perfect. When I got the microphone, I told him, I said, young man, there is nowhere I said the election was perfect. Yes, I swore to God that Tinubu won the election because I was convinced that everything put together, irregularities and everything, is the man who won that election. And I've never seen an election like that in which 12 governors of the ruling party will fail to even defend their states. It was a damn close election. So, and I said, yes, I was convinced that he won the election. But I have never told anybody that the election was perfect. How can I say the election was perfect? I never said that. How many polling units did I see? Did I go to the southeast, for example? Because if I'm saying the election was perfect, I'm saying that in Kano it was perfect, in the southeast it was perfect, in Yoruba land it was perfect everywhere. I'm not a fool. I could never have said that the election was perfect. But even in the imperfection of our election, I was convinced that that is the person who won the election. I've been covering elections for years in our country. I have never failed, to the glory of God, winner of election. Since 1999, I have never failed to predict the winner of the presidential election in our country. So I was convinced that Tinubu would win that election. And I was convinced that after the election, I was still convinced that he was the winner. That was why I went as far as swearing to God. It is between me and my God to determine whether I was wrong or not. When people are convinced about an issue, they can swear. He have made so much issue out of the fact that I swore. And what happened that day? So when somebody was asking me if I was prepared to meet if I met my maker, will I be able to defend what I've said? That was why I said so. People have to look at the content. I do not regret saying so, and it is even.
That's right. Right. Yeah.
I would not be surprised if, honestly, given the depth of explanations that they gave, and the precision with which they delivered the judgment, I would not be surprised if the Supreme Court chose the same path. But I can see that Peter Obi is heading to the Supreme Court, and I remember what Peter Obi said: "I shall not relent in the quest for justice, not necessarily for myself, but indeed for our teeming supporters all over the country, whose mandate to us at the polls was regrettably truncated by INEC. Electoral litigation will be almost unnecessary and non-existent if INEC discharges its statutory functions creditably, transparently, and with discernible fairness." Fantastic comment by Peter Obi in excellent English that we have come to be accustomed with when Peter Obi is speaking. You know, he speaks like a scholar. He speaks like a well brought up Nigerian educationally, you know, academically. So I like what he has said, and I agree that INEC can help us put an end to litigations if elections are delivered to Nigerians in the best way possible as enshrined in the Electoral Act. We have seen situations in which INEC went against its own regulations. For example, INEC says wherever there is evidence of overvoting, wherever there is evidence of violence, that the election in such areas shall be cancelled. I've seen where there was violence and INEC still return results from those polling units. It is not the presidential election alone where we really need to see improvement. It is not the matter of IREV alone where we really need to see improvement. We need improvement across board. When people talk about IREV, this same judgment that people are lamenting about as it concerns IREV was the same kind of judgment that was given in the Osun case, Oyetola versus Adeleke. Some of them jubilated at that time because they wanted Adeleke to win. They didn't look at what the Supreme Court said about IREV. I was worried when I read the Supreme Court judgment because I knew it would affect other cases. So they should go back and read what the Supreme Court said about IREV, that INEC is not obligated to upload results real time. Once I had that, I knew that it will have some ramifications on the presidential election petition. So the people jubilated about Osun, the outcome of the Osun election, are the same people lamenting now. The same APC supporters who got angry about the Osun judgment in respect of IREV are the same people jubilating now. So that is Nigeria for you. We have reached a point in our country, and this is really deplorable. It's such a massive shame that if judgment does not go in our favor, we do not believe that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. When the judgment favors us, we are happy. We will praise the judiciary to high heaven.
Yeah.
But you cannot have a situation in which the judgment will always favor you. There will be occasions when the judgment will not favor you. And on such occasions, be prepared to abide by the judgment. Be prepared to give the Supreme Court or the judiciary that benefit of the doubt. But
Right,
to
BKO.
condemn the judiciary, to attack them when things don't go your way, and praise them
Yeah.
only when it goes your way, it's hypocrisy. There's nothing else, there's no other way by which anyone can describe your
Absolutely,
action.
BKO.
If you
Absolutely, BKO.
jubilated over Oshun, if you jubilated over Oshun because it favored you, if some of those arguments and conclusions of the Supreme Court were similar to what we saw a few days back, then you have no reason to complain.
That's right. So you've actually spoken to. It's like some of the questions that I had, lined up for you. You actually spoke to them one after the other, as if you'd seen them. The issue of the 25%, which you started with, and that of the INEC, looking like they changed the goalpost, in the middle of the game. Talking about the electronic transmission of results. You already talked about that. You already spoke to the issue of forfeiture of the 460,000 US dollars by Tinubu, which the court said that there is no criminal offense in that they're just mere allegations. Now you also spoke to the fact that one thing that I find baffling is that when Peter Obi reclaimed his mandate, when he was removed as governor, he believed the judiciary was fair, but now that he failed to secure his lost mandates at the appeal courts, the so-called lost mandates at the appeal courts, then he believed that judiciary was wrong. So you already interpreted that people only tend to believe what they want to believe. But the question I will now be asking you is, before the judgment, the netizens, talking about those of Nigerians on the social media, they try to bully, blackmail and intimidate the judges with all sorts of invectives, inventing lies and threats to twist them into doing what they described as their own kind of justice. How would you describe the judges' use of words, language in delivering the long-winded judgments?
Again, I wasn't surprised because on May 28th, 2023, a day before the inauguration, Justice Okoro of the Supreme Court showed his anger at social media people, young people on social media, attacking judges because they tried to pile tremendous pressure on the judges in anticipation of that judgment that was to come a day to Tinubu's inauguration. They had expected that inauguration would not happen. So they were trying to bully the judges, shoehorn the judges into taking a decision that favors them. But court decisions are not determined by public opinion. It has to align with the law. So it came hard on them that why should they be attacking judges on social media? So I picked what Justice Okoro said on that day. And I knew that given what this particular set of appeal court judges went through, including the crazed incident of a pastor putting their picture on the wall and speaking to one of them one after another. I've never seen anything like that. It's absolutely crazy that we'll go to the point of putting pictures of judges and be speaking to them, abusing them. Come on. So I was not surprised that they spoke in the manner in which they spoke. Look at Justice Ugo, for example, that was accused of resigning. They came up with a lying story that the judge had resigned because the executive was putting pressure on him to rig the judgment in his favor. Look at the kind of words that Justice Ugo, the Bayelsa man, had for them. Look at the pertinent questions that he asked. You know, and look at what the words that Justice Mistura Bolaji Ojo, also I've forgotten her full name, or maybe I'm even right. Justice Mistura, look at what she said. That were you expecting us to be intimidated by social media to then rule in your favor when you didn't provide evidence? Were you expecting us to go into the market space and be shopping for evidence for you? So I was not surprised. The daughter of the head of the panel, Justice Samani, has a clothing line in Abuja. They published the address of her shop with the intention of piling pressure on her and her father. We've never seen anything like that. So I knew that they will find a way to talk to these people. This has to stop. The same people tomorrow, if the judiciary gives a judgment that favors them, they will praise the judiciary to high heavens. But when it doesn't favor them, they will call them names. They will treat them like sweet rap on the floor, people who are worthless. That is the Nigerian way. And I'm not surprised that even Yisan Wike spoke to Peter Obi in the way that he did. Because Peter Obi showed to us that people can be cheated and they can get justice through
the court,
the judiciary. He won an election, and somebody else, I mean, during the PDP era, they were fond of rigging elections, and of course, Atiku was part of PDP. He cannot totally absorb himself. They were fond of rigging elections, simply writing results. But he won that election, and after 3 years or so, he got his mandate back through the courts. Not that the judges knew him, not that he gave judges money, not that his cousins were on the bench, but the judiciary did justice. And Peter Obi set a record in terms of reclaiming his mandate. And that encouraged other people that, look, when you lose an election, you don't have to give up. Seek justice. Justice may come your way. And it came his way. He set a record. It's like like somebody that the rest of the politicians were looking forward to. So today, he has no reason to abuse the judiciary because he has benefited tremendously from the judiciary. If not because of them, he would never have gone into the record books as a governor of Anambra State. As we speak, legally speaking, Ngige is not known to law as a former governor. He's not known to law as a former governor of Anambra State because the court deemed his emergence as fraudulent.
Yeah.
And the courts affirmed that it was Peter Obi that rightly won that election. So nobody can describe Peter Obi as a former governor of Anambra State. That's not known to law. Because he stole the mandate.
That's right. BKO, the time is actually fast spent, and we need to release you as early as we can. So let me quickly take one or two comments. Fabian Akaise says, the justices set a time record mainly because of manipulative behavior of Peter Obi, Labour Party, and our supporters. You cannot con the public into feeling bad, hence supporting your selfish agenda. That's according to Fabian. Godwin Osato said, Jide, you are more than a prophet. Almost everything you said before, during and after the election came to pass. Our young voters need to buy the judgment and read. This will help them in their ignorance. Nelson Adufe says, BKO sir, I wish to meet you one day. These people, Labour Party and PDP, are not sure of what they are fighting for, and their lawyers are only cashing out. I won't read what he said. But John Sanko says, Babajide, do you think Atiku will be going to the Supreme Court to challenge the tribunal court verdicts will be in their favor. And Don Weezy said judiciary are the most corrupt people in this Nigeria. Okay, yeah. So this is what I want you to speak to, BKO, very quickly. Don Weezy says this, and he says the judiciary are the most corrupt people in this Nigeria. We never voted Tinubu. How come he won? Let me ask you people, did Tinubu win FCT in Abuja? All these useless judiciary. What does this say about the mindset of our people as regards the FCT? Something that has been decided by the courts, clearly explained by the courts.
See, those who will not agree will still not agree. That's the way we are. Those who will not agree will not agree. Even after the little girl who was trying to cheat jam the other day, even after the girl confessed, there were still those who did not want to accept. They were saying, are you sure she was not forced to confess? So this is the way we are. The Supreme Court, let them go to the Supreme Court. It's not, it's just, and thankfully, this one, 60 days. Unfortunately, Obi cannot present fresh evidence in the Supreme Court. So it's still the evidence, the pieces of evidence that he produced in the court of first instance that they are going to use. And there is no time for drama, carrying journalists to court to play videos of where somebody promised to post stuff on IRF and all that. Those are not the things that will win election petition for you. No. You have to show evidence that you are the winner of the election. And your primary source of evidence is the Form EC8A that is generated on a paper, which is signed by all the agents and the security agencies present at the polling center. That is the primary source of evidence. It is the most important document. That is what you must use. So, as for whether Tinubu won the election, again, I insist that Tinubu won that election. The election was very difficult. It was a very close election. And he even lost where we thought he could win. Look at Kaduna, for example. I think apart from bringing Gwari and Sanga, there's nowhere else that Tinubu won the election in Kaduna. Nowhere else. He was well beaten in that place, despite having one of his strongest allies as governor. He was defeated in the home state of the president by Atiku. You know? So, if the APC was simply writing results, honestly, Atiku would not have won all those states that he won in northern Nigeria.
That's right.
Of all the 7 states in the northwest, Tinubu won only 2 states. He won only 2 states, Zamfara and Jigawa. What helped him was the fact that he was competitive even in states that he lost. Apart from states like Adamawa and I think Gombe. Wherever Asiwaju lost, he usually lost with low margin. That is in northern Nigeria. And in Kano, because the PDP was dead in Kano, Asiwaju came second to Kwankwaso. The gap that he gave Atiku was in the realm of 400,000 votes. So it was difficult for Atiku to catch up because the gap that he gave him in Kano helped to neutralize some of the head start that Atiku had in some parts of northern Nigeria. And Tinubu dominated the north central. Look at a state like Kwara. He won every local government in Kwara because the people were not prepared to go back to the Saraki era. So there are many ways by which you can analyze the last election that showed that you explain clearly how this man won the election. In the case of Peter Obi, I've said it before, and I'm repeating it. Peter Obi never won a single state where we have Muslim in majority. Nowhere. He didn't win a single state where we have Muslim in majority. I don't know how you can win the election and win the election in Nigeria if you fail to do well in those states. You won't win. It's just normal. And that's why I'm not surprised. He never really pushed that he won the election at the tribunal. All he was after is for Tinubu to be disqualified. Show me evidence that before the tribunal, Peter Obi
Yeah,
presented his own results to say these are the votes that I scored.
that's
These
right.
are the votes that they took away from me. He never did that.
That's right. BKO.
There is no evidence that he said he came first. Nowhere. Nowhere where he proved conclusively that he came first in that election.
He was
Nowhere.
only
And you
challenging the
want the
process.
judges to give it to you. They can't give it to you now. Uh,
You know, you already said it. You
they
said
can't give it
he's
to
a
you.
brilliant man. You already said, he said he's a brilliant man. It shows that he goes to school and then he understands how to use his words and, you know, get in the minds of the unsuspecting Nigerian youth. So we need to go now, Biko, but I want you to wrap up by talking about what Raymond Osa has called for and Taiwo Odulade. They said, I hope for a better Nigeria. Let's not castigate anyone. Let Tinubu work for the people. We are one Nigeria. Nigerians must let Ashiwaju breathe as well. What does it say about us focusing on governance? Because we can keep, you know, blaming and shaming and saying all sort of things that are unfounded, and then 4 years is gone, and then we come back again and wailing and crying. What would you say about us, you know, moving forward and, you know, giving peace a chance and allow the president to focus on his job? Well, I don't think he's even distracted.
I don't think the man is distracted. If he was distracted or worried, he would have stayed here during the time of the judgment. But he told his people to go there, and he traveled to India, where he has secured investment running into billions of dollars for our country. When foreign direct investment comes in consistently, it will help us because our supply stock of dollars will go up and the value of our currency will get better. So this is, I'm happy that he has secured those investments for our country, and I'm happy that he's using some of the best business brains in our country, including Lumelu, you know, the owner of UBA. They travel with the president and many young people too, including one of the brightest young people, young businessmen in our country, Chidi of God is Good, you know, Chidi Ajero. So they are working together. The president, in my view, is focused. If he gets himself unnecessarily distracted, if he fails, that is his problem. Nigerians will talk about the fact that Tinubu came to power and failed. Well, I know that he doesn't want to fail. But as journalists, we'll keep reminding him. Somebody said something, Babajide, one of the people commented on my post. He said, why are you not talking about the pains that people are going through under the APC? If you watch me, you don't watch me, but you want to comment about me. I've said repeatedly that our people are going through pains. When the president wanted to distribute 8,000 to people, I used 3 different episodes of Journalist Hangout to tell him that you cannot do this because it really makes no sense. And at the end of the day, the president changed his mind. We'll continue to speak for our people. Those who believe that we won't speak for our people because Tinubu is president, they don't know what they are talking about. This is a job that I signed for. And once I've made up my mind that I don't want to be a politician or work for a politician, I will do the job to the best of my ability. Where
That's
the
right.
president goes wrong, he can trust me that I will tell him.
That's right. That's
Where
right.
he goes wrong, trust me, I will tell the president that you've gone wrong, sir. And I've been doing it.
That's right.
And he's not going to say, Jide, why should you do it? No, that's not even his style. Oh, he's a
He loves
Democrat.
to be
He
criticized. Yeah.
knows that we can help him to get better as a president. He knows that we can assist him to run the.
Yeah. Yeah. So, BKO, because of our time and we need to let you go, that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade Ditoji, for those insightful analyses as always.
Thank you, Brian. You have to go now.
Right. And thanks to you, to our audience, for joining us in every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG, at Ibrahim TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now. Oh, do it was. Oh, makes sense. In fact, our obedience is not going to drag.